All right. Good afternoon. Back at it. So, appreciate y'all being here. As always, a lot of different people you could cover, and so we're appreciative that you're covering us, and fully understand you got a job to do, and we respect it, and appreciate what you do. It's not easy, and do a good job. So I appreciate that, and I'll start with this. Like I'm fired up about this group. So this is. I was thinking about this on the drive in this morning. Year 22 for me as a coach, year 10 as a head coach, and probably as excited as I've been. Um, really feel comfortable with our staff, um, and it's layered. You know, everybody can coach. I think's a good rule. I think that'll help us, especially in fall camp and within our development guys once we get in the season. Our support areas are really strong right now. Academic, strength conditioning, nutrition, sports psych, athletic training, our medical group. I feel like that we're really strong in those support areas, and I really like the leadership of this team. If you look at the guys that have been here and grown through our culture, I'm really pleased with where that's at. We're in camp mode through the 21st. That's the first day of school here. We actually got more time in this camp than we've had during my time here, and so um, we'll scrimmage twice. We're gonna have a really physical camp. Um, with the new rules, the coach to player and the iPads feel like we're gonna make it more game like 4 or 5 times before we suit up against Penn State. So in camp, um, really until the 21st, we're preparing for the season, and that's a entirety. All 12 games. Really leaning on preparing for our Big 12 schedule, and then after the 21st, we'll get into Penn State prep. So that's kind of how we're going to kind of work. It's really hard to tell. I know you guys are going to ask some questions. I'll kind of give a personnel like who was not there and who. If you have any questions, I'll answer that. But it's really hard to tell until practice 3. You guys are going to be there tomorrow and see guys run around. But with the rules, acclimatization, we're in helmets and basically what we call spider pads for 2 days. Um, we're kind of building up. Today was a light practice. Worked a ton of red zone area. That's a key improvement area for us. And we're trying to protect their legs. So that's a little bit of a change up for us. And these practices, really up until through the second scrimmage, is we're two spotting. So any group or any team activity, we'll have two spots going, and we've got a blue group and a gold group, and we mix it up. But everybody on the roster will get reps through that second scrimmage. And the purpose of that is everyone has an opportunity to get evaluated. There's a group that was here for spring practice. They had 15 practices to get evaluated. Now, the group that's here in fall camp, they're going to get through the second scrimmage to get evaluated, and everybody will get reps. I want to brag on our strength conditioning and our nutrition early on. I really feel like the nutrition piece here it's been a process, but with Sodexo and the chef we have and our nutritionist that's led by Haley and Bailey. I think that's in a great spot. Our guys, our body fat percentages, the best they've ever been. We look the part when you come out there tomorrow. We look like a contending Power 4 team, and so a lot of credit goes to them. And then Mike Joseph, I believe, is the best in the business. I've said that before. Our guys in the winter, in the summer, man, are really tested and prepared for the year. And he and his staff, and we've had some turnover down there, but I really am pleased with where that group is, and I thought we handled today well. It was humid, wasn't necessarily hot, but it was humid. So I'm pleased with what they've done, and just really proud of that group as a whole. I'll say hit on a couple things. So these are just some notes that Monty gave me personnel-wise that give you an update. C.J. Donaldson, full participation today. He'll be full go all during fall camp. The same for Jaheim Joseph, Cole Taylor. Both those guys will be full go. Kyle Altuner will be out with a lower injury. We look for him to come back some point mid-season. He's not going to miss the year. That's a blow to us. We thought he would be able to compete, and he still may toward the latter part of the season, but he'll miss all of camp and probably looking toward midseason. Corey McIntyre's out with the lower injury that he got hurt in the spring. He'll be back later in the year, but he's going through rehab right now. Orion Fisher is still limited from an injury during bowl prep last year, lower injury. Jacoby Spells has really done well. He got injured, I think, practice 2 or 3, a spring ball. He was a limited participant today, but I feel good about him progressing and being ready. Dom Collins had a little bit of procedure. He's limited, but he'll be full go within the week. And so I know you guys may have some questions, some other guys. Just some roster notes. Jai Favris is going to be a medical red shirt. Hate it for him. Great guy. Really was a heavy special teams contributor, but just had several injuries that set him back. And the other one that's taken a medical red shirt is Mo Hamilton, just with some lower leg and some back issues. So those 2 guys are not on our active roster. So when you see that tomorrow, just to kind of update you on that. Going to try to be back on social media for a little bit during fall camp, and so posted today, so I'll do that for a while. But that's kind of a state of the union, so to speak. I liked our energy today. Again, we're playing 7-on-7, so it's really hard to evaluate a whole lot. But Greg, start us off.
Clarify a couple things on those injuries. So you think Spells will be able to play by the opener?
Hopeful. Okay. Yeah, I would say that it's hopeful. And I'll say this too, man, like all this injury stuff, I really think as a league and really like college football in whole, we need to look at injury reports and just having a reporting mechanism. Like we try to protect the kid, which is the right thing to do, but at the same time, with all the changes and the gambling and everything, so I don't know who's listening to this, but anyway.
And Hamilton, do you think they'll ever be able to play career ending?
Yeah, I think career. Yeah, unfortunately. I hate it for them. Both good kids. And Jai's been a really good leader and really developed here into a good special teams player, so I hate it for him.
Fair statement. Best overall roster, most difficult schedule since you've been here?
Yeah, schedule to be determined. Like everybody's whining about our schedule in hindsight last year, but if you remember – we played last year. We opened up with Penn State, top 10 team. We played Pitt, who was a lot on a lot of people's preseason top 25, and then we went to Texas Tech came here, and they were a preseason top 25. And so the schedule to be determined. On paper, it looks really hard, right? And our league is extremely deep. I will say this about our schedule. I like where our bye weeks. The travel, we got 2 really long trips to Lubbock and to Tucson, but those are the Lubbock trips at the end of the year. Tucson is we have a bye post, so we're protected a little bit on that, so that helps. So I don't know, to be determined on the schedule. We just got to take it one at a time, but there's some really good teams on there.
What about the roster part?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a little bit to be determined too. Let's talk to me after probably our second scrimmage, and I'll be able to give you a fair answer. On paper, it is. We've got some depth. Defensively, we've got more depth than we've ever had. Offensively, we've got a good mix of playmakers, probably the most diverse group we've had. Our quarterback, I think Garrett's got a chance to be elite. He's a difference maker, and so he had a really good opening day. I think Nico, when y'all watch him tomorrow, and you've seen the progression, but I think when you watch him tomorrow, he's gonna open some eyes as well.
Sonny Redwood, is he all right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, Monty, he left him out, right? So now Sonny, I'm just kidding, Monty. So Sonny, it was a limited participant, and hopefully within the next 10 days or so, he'll move into a full participant. But really hopeful and feel good about his progression.
On defensive line, is that one of your concerns, or you feel pretty good?
Well,
about it?
I think that if we can stay healthy, I like the group. We've got some versatility up front where Sean Martin can play field or boundary. TJ can play field or boundary. Eddie can play nose and the boundary. You know, Hammond can play the nose and the boundary. So a lot of versatility. I will say this. I think of the group that's Makai Byerson, who had a great summer as a true freshman, Elijah Kinsler, Zach Keith. One of those three guys has got to emerge, and I believe they will. I just don't know who. And so, but I like that group. Fall camp's going to be big for that to kind of separate who's going to play and who's not. And Asani has versatility too. He can actually play field and boundary as well.
A lot of us kind of detailed this when the Big 12 was formed to be this current conference, and I'll give credit to Jed throwing it up in his podcast. But the fact that West Virginia, all-time winningest in the current Big 12, top 3 in bowl appearances, bowl wins, all of that. Any extra pressure now on you in the program, certainly after coming off a major year? I mean, you could argue WVU's the blue blood of the Big 12. Did that change anything for you when you see all of that in comparison to when you had Oklahoma and Texas in there?
Well, first of all, Jed's research is pretty impressive. Now, like he's got a couple books. Like he's trying to match John writing books. He sent me some. I told him to dumb it down really good for me and send me some information, and it was about 21 pages. But no, like here's the thing. Like we embrace the tradition. When we came here in January of 19, we knew the tradition, and so the conference championships are on the wall in the weight room.
I think nationally that might surprise people, though.
Yeah, I really do. I think that we have a statement out there that says it's. I think Herb Street said it, and I'm paraphrasing here, but most underrated fan base in the country, and I really think our tradition is probably undervalued. I use that term with our players, some of our key players, especially Garrett. But I do think it is, and the reason why, we can make some excuses, like we're a small state population-wise, but we flew under the radar. Our tradition has flown under the radar, and I've said this a lot when kind of all this realignment was being discussed. Regardless of the conference, West Virginia has always fared really well. And we've probably had the less success in the Big 12, but it's coming. But regardless of conference, and we've been in a bunch. There's probably some programs out there that have had more, but we've had a lot. And the one common theme is we've had success program-wise.
What's the process of developing a nutrition program?
Yeah, it started back as getting stability in that role, and then adding to the staff. Our university has a really good nutrition. I don't want to misstep it, so however you label it, nutrition, dietitian program. And we've been able to utilize some interns from that program. And so what Haley has done is really build that program. And so we've got people that have been in our program 2 and 3 years that have really developed, that have expertise. We were able to hire an assistant. We've had stability with our chef here. And so, and it's a mix. Anytime with nutrition, it's a mix, is from a chef standpoint and what we're serving. And we're unique, the fact that our guys eat here, which really works out well for us. But it's a balance between nutritional and what they like. And so you got to find the kind of common balance. And I think we've done that from a meal prep standpoint. Also from vitamins, supplements, we're also doing some things from that are kind of cutting edge, from how we do dehydration testing. We've been really involved in vitamin D. And so, and we always want to be innovative. Like if you really look at our program, we've really tried to embrace the technology piece in the weight room and nutrition, what we do from an analytics standpoint, what we're doing in our athletic training room. So we really try to embrace the technology and be different. It helps in recruiting, but it also helps our players develop.
Is the other part, I think you mentioned getting the guys to buy into that and not
Yeah.
going home and.
And it's not perfect. There's not a nutrition program across the country that's perfect, but our guys understand the why. I think we're doing a better job program-wide explaining the why. And I think that's something with this generation. People always say, are the guys different, or is coaching this group different? And I would say no. You just got to understand they're more informed. The players you're coaching today are much more informed than year one in 2015 when I started coaching. Or if you go back to when I was receiver coach or offense coordinator. They're more informed. And so the more you can hit why we're doing this and why it's important, they understand. And when you have good players that want to be the best they can be and they're good people, they're going to do what you ask them to do as long as they understand the reason why.
On
Yep.
Fabris and Hamilton, I have my notes, you said medical redshirt, I might be wrong. Redshirt or retirement?
So it's a medical DQ.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
they come off the 85 then,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And what we'll do is Monty will text you all whatever the proper term is. I probably should have, but it's a medical DQ red shirt. They're not on the active roster.
You said something interesting that when we walk out there, we'll notice that they're a Power 4 football team, which
No, a power four
gotcha,
contending.
yeah, but like
contending.
I would imagine in your head you notice that, which means that maybe there have been times you haven't noticed that, and that might give you a little bit of pause early in the season. Maybe you're not as confident about, I don't know, trenches, whatever, but can you just
Yeah.
the difference between knowing and not knowing, and what
Well,
do you do
our-
when you know it's not there?
Our line of scrimmages look significantly different than we were our first 2 and 3 years here. Significantly different. And that's not a knock on anybody that was here. We just didn't have the depth. And we were having to play young players at those before they were really had developed from a strength standpoint and a weight standpoint. So that's what I meant on that. And like you look like a room tight end. Cole Taylor sticks out. Like Jackson Marco sticks out from just a size standpoint. Look at our receiver room now. With Justin Robinson and Jaden Bray and Traylon Ray and even Hudson, those guys with size and length. We've had one, when Bryce was here. Sean Ryan had that, but we haven't had just a lot of size and length in that room. You look at defensive back, look at our safeties when you go out there. We've got multiple guys that look the part. We're bigger at corner than we've been. And then our body style at linebacker has changed. We've gone bigger, and we go about 5 deep there with some big kind of linebackers that are not only good size but they can run. So that's what I meant when I said that.
Confidence, I guess, just as a coach, a staff, a playbook, when you realize you have that physicality, probably experience, maturity too.
Yeah, I think so. And I thought we really kind of had that confidence last year, especially as the year went on. And the other thing too is like the year-round football has been able to help too. You got spring ball, you got OTAs in the summer, so this was practice 1, but not really, except for our new walk-ons that got here in July. Everybody else has been through spring practice, OTAs, and so when we go out there and practice, like reasonable expectation, and they know the signals, they know the alignments, they know the assignments. Now we got to work some technique stuff, but they know what to do.
So in past seasons, even last year, obviously, there's always been a freshman that would step up and be a big part of the success. While that could happen again, is it fair to say, kind of off John's question, that might be not as required because there's more depth and you added more major conference transfers, et cetera?
Well, we'll have some freshmen that play. Now I'm careful to talk about them just yet because Tony Creedy keeps up with it, so I got to be careful. So him and Brad, I got to watch them. So Tony heard his name, so he woke up over there. But there'll be some freshmen that are going to play. We'll wait and see. It usually kind of clears itself out after the first scrimmage. And if they can handle the load once you start installing in the second week, then you're onto something. But we're going to have some freshmen that play. Will it be as many in the past? To be determined. I like these guys. We got some guys that I talked about a couple of those D linemen, but we've got some other guys that are going to be ready to play. What I hope is we progressed where maybe offensive line wise we don't need a freshman to play. That's
Talking about freshmen, last year you had 2 freshmen, grabbed some big national spotlight, White and Hudson Clement and guys like that. From year 1 to year 2, with that on your back or ahead of them, how do you handle that, and how should they handle it?
Well, let's go and rewind because I don't think as a staff we did as good a job preparing CJ for that. He really burst on the scene as a true freshman and got injured in the TCU game his freshman year. And I don't think we prepared him from January on for for what it was going to take to be able to repeat that performance and improve. And so the change up is you learn. You know, you make mistakes, you learn. And so with Jaheim, it's been a challenge, you know, because there's the reality of a sophomore slump. Those happen more often. Those happen a lot. And so we're just trying to hit it head on. And the way I talk to him about it is, you know, look at your numbers from last year. And if I told you you're going to have the same numbers, is that something you're going to be happy with? And the answer is no. Like, he's not going to be happy with that. And the other thing with Jaheim is, I think he's special. Like, I really do. He can do a lot. Now, he's maturing as a player and as a guy. So there's a lot of room for improvement, but he can do a lot of things. And there's not a lot of people talking about him. You know, you're asking questions about him, but I didn't get one question about him at media days. Not one person asked me about him. I haven't done an interview where somebody's asked me about him. And so he's flying under the radar. And so, and we mentioned those things. And so he understands that. And the receiver group as a whole, if you go back, we did some nice things as the year went last year, and we did some really nice things explosiveness-wise. But, you know, if you were looking at scouting reports on us as an offense last year, it would be make them throw it and play the receiver singled up. And so that's a challenge for those guys, because if we can progress efficiency-wise throwing it, and our receivers can one-on-ones, we're going to be really tough to defend. You know, now you got to defend us horizontally and vertically. That's going to be a challenge for people.
The other side of that coin, how do you handle guys who thought that last year, you know, they came in, they were going to play, and it said Trotter, Lathan, you know, who got hurt? I mean, how do you handle getting them back and calming them down, maybe?
Well, the spring was big for both of them, because they went out there and practiced full speed, and were able to get over some of those hurdles. You know, Trotter is a different mindset. So, like, I spend very little of my time being concerned if he's ready, you know, like ready to go. Like, he's when you grow up in that household and you're prepared like he's been prepared, like, that's not somebody that I'm going, man, I wonder if he's getting ready. You know, he's ready. You know, his play, he's a redshirt freshman. And so we have high expectations for him, but we understand he's a redshirt freshman that's playing for the first time. But at the same time, I know that he's going to be prepared mentally and physically. And then Trey, you know, that was a bad injury, and so mentally that took a lot. And he's worked with people to overcome that. He got hit in the spring, and he got better, and he had more confidence as the spring went, and he ran around well today, and he did the same thing at all our OTAs. So. Those guys, guys are going to be ready. I always believe, too, that there's a big jump in guys at redshirt from their redshirt year to their redshirt freshman year. And I told our team today, I'm always really intrigued about who that's going to be. Is it going to be a Nick Cray? Is he going to make a big jump? Is it going to be Johnny Williams? Is he going to make a big jump? Corey McIntyre was set up. I knew he was going to make a big jump. Unfortunately, he's injured. But who is going to be the guys that make that? Can Josiah Jackson make a step? Can Jordan Jackson? You know, and I can go on and on, but that's always a really intriguing thing for me, is once a guy's in your program for a whole year and they've had multiple off seasons, winter and summer, then it starts finally clicking, the game slows down. So there's always somebody in fall camp, or a couple guys in fall camp, to make significant jumps.
Going back to the things that you talked about and the other things in the program that have really developed to your liking, starting here earlier in your career, you didn't have a lot of those things to deal with. Obviously, that took time, you know, for you to do, and took time away from other things. Are they to the point now where the directors, the people running those, are in a place where you can pay a little bit more attention to football?
Well, I'm a better CEO of it, too. You know, I think you learn in any leadership position, and you learn as you go through this, you know, being a head coach or being in charge of something. And so, and I think I've talked to a lot of you guys on this on a one-on-one, is I've personally done a much better job of focusing really on what my strengths are and what I have to do. And then and where I'm not an expert, those people, I know I've got a pulse on what's going on, and I've got people that keep me informed. But trust me, I'm not going down there and telling Mike, like, how to run the weight room. Like, I'm not an expert. I'm asking him questions because I'm curious, but I'm not giving him, same thing with nutrition. I'm asking questions, and I want to know what our routine is, but by no means am I an expert there. Athletic training, medical, I've known nothing. I ask questions about what we're doing. Sports psych, that's been a big piece too, is having Dr. Sophia in here every day. She's made a significant difference, and not just player-wise, but serving the staff. And so that's something that's really just come in to really got where we needed to be here in the last probably 6 to 9 months. So I'm excited about that. And then the NIL piece is in much better. And so I'm proud of the growth that we've made there. But you learn what the rules are and you play by them. Now, the rules are going to change again. And I think that, and this is not for this meeting, but the revenue sharing is going to be significant change in like how you're building your roster and what your scholarships look like. And so I put some thought into that really probably in the last 3 or 4 days, and I'm kind of shutting that. And we got some people that are really going to tackle those issues that aren't necessarily involved with football on the day-to-day. And we'll have a plan when November and early December get around to it.
Do you have any conversations through the off season with guys, because it's camp for you, but also NFL camps these days with Zach or Beanie, or even any thoughts on Beanie's really killing it to Steelers training camp if you've not seen?
Yeah, so I really wanted to go up there and watch them, but I was following my daughters playing softball over the weekend. We always take the weekend before. Long weekend, Friday to Monday off. A lot of our staff went up there and watched him. No, I just reached out to him. I think the biggest thing on those guys, they're there for a reason, and that's what I try to communicate. Like, we believe in you. This team that has you on that roster believes in you. You don't give them a reason to say no, because everybody in the National Football League is looking for a reason to say no, so they can get their roster down as camp progresses. Don't give them a reason to say no. I'm zero surprised with Beanie. He's here. He was here most of summer. As soon as they got done with their voluntary workouts and their mandatory OTAs, he was here. He's a football player. Maybe he doesn't check off the size, but he's a football player, and I'm not surprised. I'm not fully expecting to make the roster. I fully think he'll contribute. He's a guy that you're going to love to coach, and so, yeah.
You mentioned additional staff that now can instruct during practice. So, how do you use? I imagine there can be too many out there at times. So,
Yeah.
How many do you use? How do you utilize that?
Well, it's trial and error because this is the first time we've been able to do it. It's really going to benefit us on special teams because we're going to have more people involved. So I really believe our fundamentals will be better. In the big rooms that we have right now, so O-line, D-line, secondary, having more people that can meet and more people that can coach on the field is going to be beneficial because, just like in a classroom, you want a smaller student to teacher ratio. It's the same thing in a meeting room. And then we can break those guys down. Like if you look at secondary, we can work corners, we can work safeties, and we can work our spears, which are our nickel position. If you think about an O-line, we can work center, we can work guards, we can work tackles. Tackles and tight ends can go, guards and centers can go. D-line, we can really work because there's some different techniques, field and boundary, and with the nose, so we can break that up. So that's going to be beneficial. I'm excited about really our developmental guys as we roll through the season because what we're going to do is we always keep those guys out Monday through Thursday and get work post-practice. But now it's not going to be as taxing for, let's say, Matt Moore, because Jens Danielson and Ryan Alexander can also work with those guys and keep them post. And I think, too, the thing that's not getting discussed is, man, it's going to be really beneficial for coaches and growing coaches and developing coaches. And so we want to be a program here that, equips and launches coaches as well as players.
With the helmet and the iPads, do you have to bring somebody in who knows about that? Or to teach you guys how to use
So
that?
it's a lot of trial and error, but yeah, for not as much on, so our equipment staff has to be trained, and everybody that runs our communication systems has to be trained, and our video people have to be trained. The coaches, they just need to understand how it works. And so we had training last week on the iPad stuff, or the Surface Pro, I should say. So the Surface Pros we used in the bowl game, so we got a little bit. Our assistant video coordinator, Jake, was with the UFL or whatever they were the year before, and they used that system. And so he's brought that knowledge. That really helped on during the bowl game last year. So, and then the coach, the player, we've been using it. You just got to get used to. You got to wear a bunch of other stuff here, so you got to get used to that. It's more coach than anything.
You also talk about technology being more physical. How beneficial is it having basically like an extra week off the 20-hour clock and being able to do?
It helps.
Yeah.
It helps. And I think you asked the question out at media days is we've got to be more game-like in our practice, so because we got to be able to play our best, because it's going to take our best in week one. And so how we go about our preparation has got to be more game-like to be prepared for that. And so I think we got to tackle. We got to be physical. We're going to be a run team, so we got to come off the football and be physical and be able to lower our pads. Defensively, we got to stop the run. And so we've got to tackle. If you want to be a good tackling team, there's only one way you can do it, and that's to practice it. And so, and there's a fine line because you want to be healthy in that game too, but you better be prepared. And so that's our goal, to stay healthy but have our guys ready to roll.
Sure. Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you all.